Hi, I'm Annette Richmond with Career Intelligence, Resume Writing, and Career Services. Thanks for being with me today. If you've talked to any career professional, I'm sure you've heard the phrase that when it comes to resumes, content is king. Even the snazziest looking resume is not going to get you very far if the content isn't compelling. That means achievements and accomplishments and talking about the impact that you've made on your employers. But it's also true that having a well-formatted resume will make it easier to scan and will also make it, a bit more compelling and might help convey your message, just a little bit better. So today I'm going to go over 5 formatting techniques that you can use to make your plain resume. As you can see, the one right here on the screen is pretty plain. I did leave in the chart just for the formatting sake, but I did take out the other design elements. So one of the problems that I see often in resumes from potential clients is that they're sloppy in the sense that people just don't understand how to do the formatting. You see teeny tiny font that's just about impossible to read. Often people, for some reason, are using Times New Roman, which is a holdover from years ago. Um, and there's also dates, employment dates that are migrating across the page because people tab them across and they don't set them to align on the ruler up here. So I will show you, how to do that. So the first of the 5 things I want to talk about today is having large blocks of text. Now here you can see that the text already is in small blocks. I didn't push that together. So it's 3 or 4 lines of a job description talking about what you do, followed by bullets. As you can see, the bullets are also short. They only run 2 lines and everything is evenly spaced. So what I mentioned earlier is the teeny tiny fonts, which I see. I have changed these 3 sections, which are all different fonts, to size point 10. I sometimes have seen them in point 9, which if I'll just show it to you here, this is a great font, but you can't even read it. You really can't read it. So you want to make sure that your font is, depending on the font, but most often I use 11 because it's just the easiest to read both on the screen. And you have to remember that most people are going to be looking at your resume on a computer screen. So here you can see the difference between the sans serif font, which is Calibri, which does not have the little tails, which is the serif font. This is Times New Roman, which you can see is much more difficult to scan. And down here we have Georgia, which I sometimes see in the bodies of resumes. So I'm going to just change those both to Calibri, and you'll see that it's much easier to read than it was before. So we have point 11 font, and we're using a sans serif font, which I'm using Calibri. Um, Now, the third thing I want to talk about, actually, the fourth thing is adding interest by using complementary fonts for the headings. Here, all of the fonts on this resume is Calibri, but you can really add interest if you change the headings to something that's, complementary, um, and, just gives it a little bit of a different look. So I'm going to change them all to Homo, which I use with a lot of my clients because I like the clean lines. Um, but you can also change them to something um, like Georgia, which can work in some resumes. Let me just give you a quick look of what that looks like. So if you change it to Georgia, you're changing really the look of the resume by just changing those fonts. So I'm going to go back to Tahoma because I think It's a very clean look. Now, the last thing I want to talk about here is using lines to differentiate the different sections. Sometimes I do see them come through like this. It makes them a little bit more difficult to scan. Um, and just for emphasis, we're going to play a little bit with color. So I'm going to add lines here for each of these. And I'm just going to go up into borders and shading. And we're going to pick a line here. So I'm going to go with blue to give it a little bit of color, and I'm going to give it a 3-point and just click here to give it a little bit of color. See, already it sort of breaks it up and it makes it a little bit easier to read because you have the different career sections that are standing out in front of you. You can also add a little interest here by doing the same thing, maybe doing something that's a little bit thinner. We use the blue again. No, you know what? Let's use a little gray to have some contrast. And instead of using 3-point, we'll just use like 2¼ which will give it a little bit of different look. So now you can see the resume has just a little bit of formatting and a little bit of style to it. What I did mention as far as the dates go is instead of tabbing across, you need to create use the tab settings and create something so that when someone opens a resume, the the dates are all even and not in different parts of the page. So another thing you can do is to add shading to highlight different areas of the resume. So here I'm going to go and I'm going to just use a little shading. I'm going to use a light gray that's easy to read underneath it. So we'll give that a little shading. And here is the information on the client's company. I like to put that on the resumes that I write for my clients because it sets a little bit of context. Sometimes people are working for a company and people have not heard of it. It's not a nation brand. So the last thing I want to talk about in the formatting is the bullets. Here you can see the traditional bullets that are on every resume, unless someone is playing around with the style. So it's very easy to change that. Just go up into Find New Bullet and pick a symbol. I generally like to use the small box. It's very clean. Um, and I'm not finding it quickly here. So just to save time, I'm going to use the diamond. So I'm going to choose the diamond. I'm going to make that also a blue. Give a little color there. And so here we go. There's the style, and we click OK, and we have those diamond bullets, which make it stand out a little bit. You can also make it look a little bit more even by just moving the bullet over a little bit, and then adding a little bit of space between the bullets. So we're going to add a little space, which makes it much easier to read. So here in just a few minutes, we've taken this plain, boring resume. We've given it a little bit of style, makes it more attractive. It's going to help it stand out from the other resumes that are sitting on a recruiter or hiring manager's desk. And it's really not much effort on your part to just make these formatting changes. So again, thanks for coming by today, and just follow these simple instructions to give your resume just a little bit of pizzazz. Thanks for being here.